Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships. Today we're going to talk about that sort of specialness we feel when we're chosen by the narcissist, which is dangerous. Narcissistic folks are like magicians, aren't they? They capitalize on trauma bonds and being great and then being awful. And so in these relationships, we're always off balance. We're either making apologies, afraid they will leave us, or basking in their generosity and charm. Their charisma and charm and grandiosity make them exciting and compelling. Narcissistic people are so skilled at drawing us in. And just when we're in, just when they got us, that's when they kind of ignore us, which only and sort of sadly makes us want them even more. That's their magician-y quality. If you had narcissistic parents, think back to the challenges of at some level knowing something wasn't right, but desperately wanting to be chosen, being special to them. It's all any child wants, right? To be noticed and cherished by their parents and caregivers. So then that idea of being special enough to be chosen absolutely drives the allure of the love bomb. Not only do they choose us, but they really go through lots of trouble for us and tell us that they love us and miss us when we aren't there, or so they say. If they choose us, then I think we feel like no matter who chooses us, narcissist or not, but if they choose us, if we're chosen, then we're special. I'm always struck by how inaccessible narcissistic people can make themselves. They may love bomb and pay attention and charm and chariz their way through situations. And everyone just feels like they have their hands up saying, "Oh, pick me, pick me." So even when the red flags start popping up, even when our smart brains tell us this person doesn't seem safe or healthy or good, we still feel special when they choose us. We don't step back and say, nah, too many red flags for my taste here. No, we lean in and we feel special. And the narcissistic folks are almost counting on that. In fact, I do think that, and I've said this repeatedly, that I think that, and they are, narcissistic relationships are an indoctrination process. And this process leaves us feeling that if they choose us, then that's what makes us special. Listen, cult leaders do this all the time. They kind of make themselves deliberately remote, above it all, special, magical. And at the same time, they make themselves really accessible. The people in the cult want to be the chosen ones, the favorites. And in some cults, it becomes very abusive, usually becomes very abusive, with a cult leader misusing this power, resulting in things like coercive sexual relationships, coercive financial relationships, you name it. And yet, to be the chosen one in those systems can feel special. I think that's an extreme version of it, but I think that's in all narcissistic systems. This can happen in family systems as well. Something about the specialness of being chosen by the very parent or family member that even a few hours you were talking about as being toxic. And these cycles don't end in childhood, even in adulthood. People are still angling to be the one that's picked. Trauma bonding and cognitive dissonance can both explain in part why this happens. The hope of having a parent who is a hero and who chooses us. It is the grandiosity a child sometimes needs to feel safe that, ooh, the heroic parent has chosen me. But when that parent actually is not a hero and is rather an egocentric and invalidating person, then the desire to keep them in that hero role means that the child will foster that image in the parent and jump on the rare moments when the parent is actually somewhat present or behaving well, and then revel in those brief moments that they feel special. Maybe they take you out to get a soda or a milkshake or take you out on an errand. That moment felt chosen and then special. It's breadcrumbing, plain and simple, but with a child. That dynamic extends to the workplace as well. The tyrannical boss who then anoints a person in the workforce. You, yeah, you do good work. I want to work with you, right? There's a little bit of a specialness to that. Oh, the big bad boss wants to work with me. Even as you know that you are walking into a can't win abusive space with this leader or manager, maybe you don't know it, but most people could see it coming. Hope keeps us alive, and cognitive dissonance means that we rationalize it. Maybe I'll get through to them. Maybe I really will convince them. That specialness of being chosen by someone who may play on those core wounds, those trauma bonds, can then leave any of us being less discerning and losing ourselves in the process. We can also see this specialness paradigm play out in things like hazing rituals or exacting and competitive or audition or application processes in any kind of organization. So a person, you have applications and interviews and lots of hoop jumping. If I go through all of this and they pick me to be in their club, then I am special, right? And people may miss or choose to ignore red flags because getting to this point, getting in, being the chosen one was what it was all about, right? Many people will look at a lifetime or years of work and not want to walk away from something that they worked so hard to get to. So when it gets toxic, and especially when there's no recourse, people may get entrenched because they've still felt special for being the person who was chosen to have that experience. This specialness dynamic really undercuts one of the most important defenses in navigating a narcissistic world, which, like I said, is discernment. That infantile need to be special, which is universal, comes up against a rather adult ability we all have to discern. And it's an unfair fight. Infantile wins every time. We want to be picked by the tyrant, to finally have the moment where we get to work it through and get it right. We may not have been chosen or special as children, but damn it, maybe this time with this person, yep, gonna get it right. It's not gonna happen. It's not because of you, it's because of them. It's a Herculean mental effort to recognize red flags and not get pulled into the specialness swamp. It can mean lots of self-talk. Not good for me. You got to keep saying, not good for me. This is not good for me. This is not good for me. I'm not falling for this trick again. It's like walking away from a game of 3-card Monte in the street or a slot machine. Like you think you're going to win it this time. You're never going to win it. You can't. And their magic, that narcissistic magic, is that when they choose us, we feel special. We lose that discernment. It's on us to do the work to break that cycle. Specialness should not come from being picked out of the crowd by someone who is invalidating and entitled. It's something that all of us deserved to develop from childhood. Most of us didn't get it. And it's on us as adults, as individuals, to figure that out for ourselves so we aren't as vulnerable for their game and for the harm that comes in the process. I do know that some of you may have watched this video and said, there's also a more gruesome, harmful, traumatic element of that specialness dynamic that we see in families where there's abuse. I'm very aware of that idea that the grooming process, especially when a child or a young person is groomed for abuse, that they are really targeted as special. I'm aware of that dynamic. That is not what this video is about, but I don't want people to watch it and say, hey, wait a minute, are you aware that this is part of that abuse cycle? Very, very aware of it. I'm talking about that sense as adults, even most pointedly, that when we're chosen, whether love bombing, work, even in adult familial relationships, that somehow being chosen, even being chosen by someone toxic, in fact, even more so being chosen by someone toxic, there's a specialness that comes out. Be aware of that, because that can really lower these sorts of the shade across our face where we miss the discernment. But I am very aware of that other dynamic, and I wanted to make sure I made that point so anyone watching that doesn't feel as though they weren't heard around that one. Thanks again.